Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always by my co-host Nick Filato. I don't really know why, Nick. It's August, and I'm somehow picking up a cold. I don't think I've ever had a cold in the month of August. This will be the first time, stuffy nose, but we're going to fight through it because the Giants are fighting through the heat, though. It's been nice these past 2 days for the Giants at practice, and I know you were there during Friday's practice on August 1st, so we're going to talk a lot about that practice, but also a little bit about the practice today and the practice from the day before, just some plays that we like, that we've highlighted, that we want to go over, and some developments with the Giants. But first thing first, Nick, what was kind of your key takeaway just from being at Friday's practice? Anything new to note? Anything like that stood out to you?
I wouldn't say there was like one particular thing that stood out to me. It's a lot of reinforcing all the things that we already believed. But at the same time, it's pretty freaking awesome just seeing Abdul Carter be Abdul Carter. Like his upside is through the roof, dude. And I've said this basically since we've said this basically, like Giants community in general said this since we drafted this player. But watching him go up against like John Runyon on these one-on-one drills, and you just see like the clean spin, you see the bend in his ankle joints. I put it up on Twitter. It's just like this guy. If the offensive linemen, if they're not able to attack him and get their hands on him early to diffuse a rep, he can destroy offensive protection packages. And that's not even like considering all the other players that the New York Giants have. So Abdul Carter is a big takeaway. He wrecks team drills as well. He's just an absolute nuisance for the offense to deal with. I mean, the one-on-ones, we get it. One-on-ones for the offensive line, those are tailored for the defense. And then for the wide receivers, it's much more advantageous to be a wide receiver in those one-on-ones than defensive back. We talk about that a lot, especially around the Senior Bowl and the All-Star games. But still, man, it's not even just that he's winning these reps. It's what he's doing with his body. That fascinates me, because he can put so much stress on those lower joints in his body and bend so well. I heard Marcus Bo talk about it after practice as well. He's just like, dude, this guy's bend is freaky. Like, it really challenges me. And Bo is a more bendy, I would say, offensive tackle who can get low and still like maintain good flexibility in his lower half when he attacks and he's trying to do his thing. But overall, man, it's there is a different energy at practice. I mean, that's kind of cliche at this point. We hear a lot about that. You do feel it. It seems like everybody who talks with the media at the podium, they just can't stop talking about Russell Wilson and kind of taking these, I don't want to say shots at Daniel Jones, but inadvertent shots at Daniel Jones, where it's just like, I've never seen a quarterback lead like this, man. This is insane. And it's just like, all right, like, let's turn the page from the Daniel Jones chatter. But like, I mean, he was here for 6 years, and that's just the reality of the situation. I would say Russ, look, he threw 2 picks in yesterday's practice, one to Tyler Nubin and the other was to Dane Belton. I think there have been some passes where it looks like it lacks velocity. I think in today's practice on August 2nd, the route by Wan'Dale Robinson that we'll break down, that was a beautiful route where he gave Andrew Phillips a little head move, and then Phillips went flat, and then he went vertical, and it should have been an easy touchdown, but Russ didn't put enough mustard on it. I'm not going to say that I'm concerned, but I think it's certainly noteworthy that there have been several plays like that. But I wanted to bring up Russell Wilson for this one reason. The interception by Tyler Nubin yesterday, people are making a big, like, there was like 7 seconds left on the clock of a 2-minute drill. He's just throwing it up, giving Malik Nabers an opportunity to make a play on the football. So I'm not going to really hold that against him all that much.
Yeah, and Nick's talking about a 4th and 7 play, I think, where he just kind of like threw it up into the back of the end zone. Maybe we'll play. I don't think I included that in the doc, and Nubin was kind of just standing there for going for it. I wouldn't put that on the quarterback either, but I do want to start with where you started on Carter, because I think, we've been doing this for a while now, Nick, and we've had a lot of top draft picks come in. Neal, Thibodeau, Carter. There's just a different level to a top 5 pick when it's Carter versus Neal or Thibodeau and some of these other guys we've had in here. He's at a different level, Carter. And I think we talk a lot about, oh, it's so exciting, he's this and that. And it's hard to really contextualize it without watching it. But when you see it, you see the difference. I don't know if you saw this, but Brian Baldinger broke down a rep of his. And it's just a simple rep where he's one-on-one against the guard, I believe, or it might have been the center, but I think it was the guard. And it's funny to me. It looks to me like Carter treats these pass rushing reps as like a point guard. He almost looks like a point guard, an NBA point guard to me, like out there on the court. Like, just the way that he kind of jukes and the way that he kind of uses his lower half to dictate to the offensive lineman. You'll get to points where you'll see these offensive linemen not really have any choice to defend him, because no matter where they declare, he's going the other way, and he's able, like you said, with his bend, to get to the other point. And so I just envision it like it's not like adding a Thibodeau or a Neal or something like that. We're
No.
adding a player who very well could be the best player on the defense or second best player on the defense because Dex is that good right away. Like week 1, Washington Commanders game, Abdul Carter is one of the best players, and not only one of the best players, but somebody who is changing the game for the Giants because these plays make such a difference in the outcome of the game. So it's just, to me, impressive when I watch a player who lives up to the hype immediately in camp and it's camp, but we saw this with Malik Nabers last year too. There was no time to waste. There was no, all right, well, he's still the 5th pick. Just give him a little time. He's getting used to the NFL. These guys are going to be immediate contributors. Nabers was the entire offense for the Giants last year, at least the entire passing game. I'm not going to say Carter's going to be the entire pass rush, but he, to me, is likely to be the biggest weapon in the pass rush this year.
I think so. And it's beyond just the pass rush. It's what he allows Shane Bowen to do from a schematic standpoint. And then, Dan, I know we've talked about this on the podcast, but what Shane Bowen can do with Carter's flexibility on the edge and also just the amount of responsibility that you can bestow onto Carter. Carter can carry guys up the seam if you need him to. It's really going to work out with Shane Bowen simulated pressures. You can slant him inside. He's going to be excellent on stunts. There's so much you can do. Quarterback spy, you put him at linebacker, which we've seen at camp. And I think that's just really going to bear fruit for the New York Giants and act as this thorn in the side of offenses who aren't going to be able to predict what the Giants are going to do. It's going to allow the Giants to just be unpredictable in general defensively. But I would say the issue with all of this is I don't know how much we're going to be able to trust as a team that secondary. And it's not Nubin and it's not Belton, and it's not Adebo, it's not Phillips, it's that cornerback 2 spot. And cornerback 2, that's a massive responsibility on the defense. And Deontay Banks, he wouldn't be able to find a football if it was right in front of his freaking face. Like, he's very bad at it, Dan. Like, he cannot locate the football. It's a massive issue. He's still sticky in coverage, so there's still utility in putting him out there. But I don't know what it is or how you can train this. It's just very unnatural for him to turn around and locate. He just goes into straight panic mode and then starts face guarding and takes stupid penalties. I don't even think he's practicing today, so he's dealing with something. So I'm a little worried about the cornerback 2 spot and the ability to shut down the run defensively. But overall, man, again, if the Giants can just force 3rd and 5+ situations to allow Carter and Bowen to hopefully coach this up with all those other assets the Giants have on the defensive front, the defense could be special, dare I say, especially if they come away with turnovers. Like, that's something that they were just averse to doing last year, where they have like 6 interceptions. Are you absolutely kidding me, dude? That's pathetic. This year, like that number should get to at least like double that, right? Like, that would still be a low interception total if I'm not mistaken. And if that happens, you're talking about flipping scripts and hopefully some more wins for the Giants.
Yeah, the turnovers will be a big factor. I think ultimately you can't be too excited about what Carter can do, but I'm okay having the reservation of, well, if these corners are struggling out there, it may not be the result we're looking for, or we're expecting, as far as is this defense lead or not. Time will tell on that front. I think this is going to be this year will be a great what's the word I'm looking for? A great indicator of that study that PFF did like 3 or 4 years ago that I cited a few times on this podcast, like the impact of pass coverage versus pass rush and what's more important to winning football games. This year is going to be a great barometer because the Giants are really on opposite ends of that spectrum. Not to knock them, but I even feel like Paulson Adebo has not looked so great in camp from the reps I've seen. And it is what it is. I personally knew what we were getting ourselves into with him. I wasn't looking at the contract being like, oh, the Giants paid him this amount of money, I expect lockdown corner coverage. No, look around the NFL. There are very few lockdown corners. You can probably count on 1, maybe 2 hands how many actual lockdown corners there are. It is really difficult to cover in the NFL. The job of these corners is near impossible with the new rules. And I think Adebo will struggle against a lot of different kinds of receivers, especially these like speed release type receivers, like a Malik Nabers type. Those are the ones that are really going to give him trouble, in my opinion, in the NFL. And I don't think that's going to change. Like when they play the Eagles, for example, I hope they just have Adebo following AJ Brown. That's a much better matchup for him than Devontae Smith. I wouldn't have him necessarily against a player like Terry McLaurin. I'd rather have him on Pickens than Lamb, these types of things. But overall, I don't feel like they have that corner spot settled. But look, they've tried. And that's the thing. That's the problem with corner in the NFL. The Giants have poured a first-round pick into it, one they had to trade multiple picks up to get, to move one spot up to get Banks because they loved him. They didn't want to lose him. They signed Adebo to a massive contract. That should be, on paper, Nick, enough to have at least an average to very good 1-2 corner combo. The reality is the Giants probably don't have that right now, and they probably won't have that this year. And it's the reality in my mind of corner in the NFL. It's why I don't think you should keep pouring assets into it. I think I don't even know how I would play corner. If I was building my roster out, man, I feel like it's a very risky position to invest in, but you need them. So it'll be interesting to track. But I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier when it comes to Russ, the deep ball and just kind of the difference in his arm talent at this age. Because this is something Emery Hunt mentioned to us, Nick, when we interviewed him a couple days ago. He said, look, I can tell just from watching, Russ isn't throwing it with the same RPMs as he was early in his career. So what does that mean for the Giants? You can still win with anticipation. Russ can get the ball out quick. We'll talk about some reps like that. But on some of these deep balls, we might be seeing situations where the receivers have to make big plays in 50-50 situations, and the DB is going to have a chance on these passes. So I want to just tame the expectations. I think, with, like you said, the vibes are really high in Giants camp. And on paper, it's like, what can go wrong? Russ is going to make our offense really good. Look at this, right? Like, the defense is great. We should be like one of the best teams. But ultimately, when push comes to shove, I think it might be a little bit of a learning period for the offense.
I think so too. Now, look, it's not Peyton Manning in 2015 or whatever year that was. Right?
Oh, yeah, that arm.
yeah. It's not that. No, that was after 2015. But you get the picture.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. The moon ball is still going to be there. He's still going to be able to use touch to get over the top of certain defenders. He's going to understand how to place the ball, where to place the ball, and be able to vary the placement of the ball. It's just I don't think he's going to be able to challenge the windows as frequently or as successfully as he used to. It's that simple. And this is training camp. I think he's trying to challenge those windows. So that's resulting into some PBUs. That's resulting into some interceptions like the Dane Belton one. Right. So I'm not happy about it because it does. I agree with Emery. It doesn't seem like it has the same oomph to it, the same zip to it, but it's not I wouldn't say it's the worst thing I've ever seen. It's just not, it doesn't jump out of his hand like it used to.
Yep. And that's fair. And I think throughout most of camp, you talked about it. It seems like Russ is either thrown to Malik Nabers when he has that opportunity to throw to him. I think over half of his completions are to Nabers, or check down to Tracy, or hit like a little out to the tight ends. I've seen him hit Bellinger and Theo on little short outs. Not a lot of middle of the field usage. This is his MO, right? We're not expecting that to be an area of the field where Russ uses, but it'll be interesting to see how that style of quarterback play works in the NFL, because it's somewhat similar to what we had with Jones with all the checkdowns to the running backs and kind of those underneath outbreaking routes, a little bit different. But there's that over the top element. And I think Russ is willing to make those throws, even if maybe his arm isn't the same as it once was.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then just other notes on quarterbacks, man, like Tommy DeVito was really bad yesterday. That was
well, I wanted to talk about this, yeah.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about Jaxson Dart, and then we'll get into Tommy DeVito.
Okay.
All right, you know what? We can start with DeVito. So DeVito was 1 of 10 with 2 interceptions in yesterday's practice, correct?
Yeah, and he missed. Like Jameis had a bad completion percentage in yesterday's practice as well, but he had like 3 drops, right? And he's like trying to put the ball into these really tight windows, and he's throwing to some of these UDFAs, and they're just not securing the football. And I can't really blame the UDFA because it is a tough play, and the UDFA cornerbacks, because Jameis is operating with the third team a lot of the time, those UDFA cornerbacks are making some plays on the football. They're getting the best of the UDFA wide receivers. But like Jameis Winston is challenging every window, and he's getting the football into a place where a receiver like Malik Nabers will secure it. And that I absolutely love, right? But with Tommy, man, like Tommy was missing throws. It looked erratic. Again, like not a lot of zip, not a lot of velocity on the football, and then just throwing interceptions that are underthrown, that are allowing players like D. Williams to stab it out of the air one-handed and secure it for an interception, or Odell Fortune, players like that, where it's like, I don't know if you should have thrown that football. Like, he was in really good position there. And if you did, you probably should have put it to the back shoulder, but you put it to the inside shoulder. But my overall point for bringing up Tommy DeVito is, look, nobody thinks Tommy DeVito is going to make the final 53-man roster, right? He'll probably be a practice squad player. I don't envision anybody in the NFL going and wasting a roster spot on Tommy DeVito. So that will more than likely be his spot. But it's just how many reps is Tommy DeVito going to take up in preseason? That's what I'm looking at.
Right. Yeah. This was the problem I had from the start. And it's not just preseasons for me. How many reps is he going to take in training camp? Like, we went over yesterday's practice, 10 throws for Tommy DeVito, 8 throws for Dart. That's just not acceptable for me personally. Like, I want 18 for Dart and 0 for DeVito. Get him off the roster. I don't see any value to him being in training camp. I don't see even value to him being preseason. I don't care about the company line, which people are spewing, including Dart himself, who had a great interview, by the way. I don't know if you saw it. NFL Network, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But who said, like, oh yeah, Tommy DeVito, he knows the offense better than any of us because he's been here for 3 years. No. I don't care about that. That's not enough. That's not offering enough. That's company line BS that we've heard through the years. Daniel Jones gets in and works hard. This guy does this. This guy does that. That doesn't lead to anything. These are valuable reps. And especially, like you said, when we get to the preseason, that's when it really is going to, grind my gears. When I'm seeing us wasting snaps on him in the preseason, there's no long-term hope for him at this team, at least. And there's no point to having him. We have 3 quarterbacks on the roster right now.
I would push back on the point to having him. I still think there is a point to having Tommy for the reasons that you said that aren't necessary, really. I think he is a sounding board, another sounding board for Jaxson Dart. And I think that is valuable, especially when Jaxson Dart is learning so much. But to your point, it's how many reps he is receiving. And now all of these reps are with the third team. He is the 4th quarterback to go out there. But there are times and there are periods where DeVito won't even really get reps, right? Like the 2-minute drill in yesterday's practice. It's not like they put Tommy DeVito out there. They did put Jameis out there. And that was kind of a strange drill because Jaxson Dart went out there and he was, I think, 4 for 5 with he connected with Fedone on an out. Then he connected with Bellinger up the seam. And then he had 2 consecutive passes to Cambry. One was a 7 route. And then Dable ended the period and put Jameis in, and Jameis led the team down the field as well. And then in the red zone drill in the next team period, Jaxson Dart had that free play touchdown to little Jordan Humphrey where he evaded and then he got the pass off. I think he wouldn't have been sacked on that play. It's a little difficult to tell. Just because defenders really pull up and stop actually rushing at the quarterbacks. They don't want to hit the guy in the red jersey. But overall, my point is Tommy DeVito, I see why they want to keep him on that practice squad. I think that makes sense. Having a quarterback on the practice squad, he can run scout team. He can do all these different things. But how many reps is this guy taking away from Jaxson Dart in preseason? How many reps does Brian Dable and Mike Kafka want to give Jaxson Dart in preseason? So they might want to cap that. They might want to limit that as well. So those are all questions I'm sure they're talking about internally.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just a debate among them and among anyone, us listening. How many, what's the value of those preseason reps? To me, like if I was running this team, I would want Dart to get as many as possible in the preseason, knowing that once the regular season rolls around, we've heard this from a lot of quarterbacks throughout NFL history, you don't get to do anything if you're not the starting quarterback. These practices are worth nothing to players like Dart. The season's basically over for Dart, in my opinion, once the regular season starts. Like as far as his progression goes, he can watch the meetings, he can watch film with the guys. There's something to get from all the mental reps that he'll get. For sure. He'll earn the mental reps and it'll get better. He'll get better through that. But the physical stuff ends for Dart the minute the preseason ends. So I would rather just get him as many reps as possible. I feel like that's an obvious, at least logic to me. And as far as, DeVito goes, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to drag the guy. Like he's a nice guy. He's got a great story. He's fun, Italian. Like it's awesome. It's cool, but it's over for them. It's over for him with the Giants. It has to be, in my mind, because they drafted Dart. If they didn't draft Dart, that's another story. But when you draft Dart, that really should have been it, to me at least. Like I don't see the need to carry 4 quarterbacks when one is a rookie first-round draft pick. If this was like, Jameis, Russ, and we sign like Locke or something, like that type of thing, whatever. Bring in DeVito. I don't really care about Locke getting 13 reps. Such a different story, though. It's a story where we need that rookie to get as much exposure as we can. And at this example, like in yesterday's practice, we took away half of what he could have got and gave it to DeVito.
I don't even know if they want Dart running with a third team. Those are reps that I think he's taking away from Jameis Winston.
Okay.
Now you could say, why aren't you having him run? Because Dart's been running pretty exclusively with the second team. And Winston's been running, I wouldn't say exclusively with the third team, but mostly with the third team. It depends on that drill. Because the 2-minute drill, they put Jameis in there and Jameis hit this whole shot up the sideline. I couldn't see what receiver caught it because there were too many players in front of me, but everybody celebrated. And I just love seeing Winston out there. I love seeing Winston moving around. I love this dude's personality. And I just love the fact that there's not a window that he won't challenge, Dan. He'll throw the football in tight windows. That's why he throws so many interceptions. But the guy just has the stones to challenge the defense, man. The defenders need to be on their toes when they're facing a quarterback like Jameis Winston, because if they give up just a little bit of leverage, Jameis is going to make them pay.
Yeah, and he attacks, and he has good arm talent and good anticipation. And again, I'm not gonna, I don't want to further this on DeVito. We'll see what happens there. But I do want to talk about Dart and his progression throughout training camp because I heard an interview with him after practice. I believe it was yesterday, maybe the day before, NFL Network, and everything I've heard from people who have been at Giants camp. Maybe you can have the same takeaway and who have been at Giants camp and watched Jaxson Dart and listened to Jaxson Dart said he's kind of insanely calm demeanor wise for a rookie.
Yes.
Like they say in their experience watching these rookie quarterbacks come in first round picks, a lot of expectations. They're nervous, they're anxious, they're, maybe overcooking some balls because of it and doing things like that. But when it comes to Dart, he's really been natural, and it feels like maybe that's partly because the Giants have put him in a good position where he doesn't have to really hit the ground running right away. He has Russ ahead of him and Jameis there to help him. But have you noticed a more advanced version of Dart at all from your 2 days at practice? Is he getting the ball out faster? Is he more confident?
I haven't seen anything discernible through his play. I've heard players like Devin Singletary and people at the podium say like, yeah, man, I'm so surprised by this rookie and the way he carries himself. Devin Singletary was talking about Cam Scadaboo's personality. He's like, yeah, Cam Scadaboo's a rookie, but he's not acting like a rookie. This guy's very vocal, and you do love to hear that. I wouldn't say necessarily it's like, oh, Jaxson Dart, like you could tell by the plays out there that he just gets it right now. I still think there are plays where it looks like he's looking a lot and his feet aren't really getting set and he's getting a little happy and jumping around in the pocket. But I just understand that that's a natural progression for a rookie quarterback entering the league, especially in an offense as complex as Brian Daboll's. So I'm not overreacting by it because there are also positive things that I am seeing from Jaxson Dart, being able to find little Jordan Humphrey in the back of the end zone, being able to find Daniel Bellinger up the seam and kind of understanding the flow of where the defenders are going and knowing what the defense is doing and then attacking and also making checks at the line of scrimmage and doing things of that nature, which are also very valuable and show a precocious level of understanding in an offense that is complex.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's talk a little bit about the cornerback 2 battle. Looks like Banks has kind of taken the lead on it in recent practices, and now Cordell Flott is out with undisclosed maybe injury. I assume. I don't really know what the situation is there. He's missed, we've 2 practices in a row, but even before that, Banks has kind of taken the lead on that corner 2 job. What is it? Outside of what you mentioned earlier with Banks, is there anything else to say there? Is there anything you've seen from, like, where do you see this kind of cornerback cornerback battle, I should say, evolving throughout the rest of camp?
I mean, I think you got to take a practice by practice once Flock gets back. I mean, it's good for Banks that he's earning these reps. I'm sure that's valuable for him, but I just want to see him be able to be in phase, which he can do, meaning he's in the hip pocket. He has all the athletic ability and talent to do that. But when the ball is in the air, he doesn't just freak out. He's able to compose himself and then turn around, locate the football, get a hand on it, and knock it away like a cornerback who was drafted in the 7th round can do, let alone somebody the Giants traded up for in the 1st round. We knew this was an issue at Maryland. We talked about it when the Giants drafted him, but I did not anticipate it not only not progressing, but seemingly regressed since he's been in the league, especially last year. So that's got to be the primary focus for Manuel, the Giants defensive back coach, and Deontay Banks. If this guy's a starter, and even if he's not, just have this guy learn to react in a much quicker manner when the ball is in the air and maybe just calm himself down, because it seems like he's way too frantic out there when he's mid route and the ball is in the air, and it leads to penalties and it leads to catches and it leads to nothing good for the New York Giants.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that develops. I think ultimately they're a better team with Banks there at corner 2, but time will tell when it comes to that battle. Let's talk about the camp penalties we've had so far.
My God, dude.
Yeah, so Joe Shane did an interview, I believe with WFAN with Tiki and the guy who does it with Tiki, I forgot the guy's name. And he mentioned, like, in his mind, the things that are killing the Giants are, 1, they're beating themselves on offense with bad plays in the red zone, interceptions and penalties. And 2, they're beating themselves with penalties. I just mentioned that, but they're also beating themselves with penalties. And we've seen a lot of penalties. So Shane was like, look, a big focus for Daboll so far in camp has been, none of these pre-snap penalties, trying to clean all this stuff up. But then we go throughout camp, Nick, and there's still a ton of penalties. James Hudson, I even saw today, had a false start and they pulled him off the field. And now Daboll's doing this thing where he's just like pulling Kubis and whoever these offensive linemen are when they have a pre-snap penalty. But they're piling up for the Giants, and they did really impact us in a lot of games last year. I don't want to say we overlooked it, Nick, but me and you kind of just like moved past it last year because the team was so bad that when you're that bad, you don't hyper focus on those little things that decide games because there's so many other big things to talk about and worry about. But now's the time to focus on those little things, and they end up being big things when it comes to the pre-snap penalties. Where are the Giants at with this? Like, is it just an issue of the personnel, or is it discipline? What's going on here?
It's discipline. It's just listening. It's simple, basic, fundamental football that everybody listening to this podcast who played football understands to some level, because your coach drilled in your head and your quarterback in high school football was like on two, ready, break. Instead, they're just not doing it on two. But in the offensive linemen's, from their perspective, they're probably worried and shitting their pants that they got 51 across from them. And they got 0 and they got 97 on some of these plays as well across from them. So they're like, oh shit, I got to do this. You got all this movement. And then they just forget. And that's just mental lapses. You need to be more disciplined than that. It's that freaking simple when it comes to it. But I do appreciate that Dable's pulling these guys out, and then he's putting Marcus Bowen for first team reps. So you're getting some of our rookies and our young players are receiving first team reps due to James Hudson's lack of discipline and this player screwing up and doing a false start. So I like that Dable is at least doing this, because this is like the 3rd, 4th, or 5th practice in a row where this has been a big topic. And we know through the Dable era, and really just the recent Giants era, discipline hasn't been the most stringent. It hasn't been too strict, right? Like the Giants have kind of been loosey-goosey recently when it comes to penalties and just sloppy play and poor execution. So you need to nip that in the bud right now in training camp. And hopefully Dable can do that. And honestly, James Hudson, hopefully he'll never see the field for the New York Giants, and Andrew Thomas will come back. He was sprinting at practice yesterday. That was a good sign to see him outside, at least just sprinting along the side. Hopefully he can get back there by the start of the season, because if he doesn't, that could be a big issue for Russell Wilson and the New York Giants.
Yeah, if Andrew Thomas is out, I don't expect too many things. I saw we were doing a fantasy pod, Nick. You might find this interesting. Jacob Gibbs brought up a stat where Malik Nabers averages like a half point more per game in fantasy when Andrew Thomas is on the field versus when he's not on the field. And like those numbers go across the board for Tracy, for everyone. It's just the difference he makes, the impact he makes on the offense is unquestioned and undoubtable. So he needs to be back on the field. I want to talk a little bit about the DTs, and we'll get in maybe some plays and stuff like that that we can watch and go over that I wanted to look at too. But, Darius Alexander starting to get reps with the first team. I saw a couple good moments from him in one-on-ones, but anything noticed? Did you notice him pop at all in the team drills? Did you notice any of these D tackles at all in the D drills performing their job? Okay.
No, I have not. And the first team defense is a little bit suspect, as the kids would say.
Versus the run.
Versus the run, of course. Look, Dexter Lawrence doesn't play every one of these snaps. That has to be taken into account. But there isn't a defensive lineman that I'm like, that guy has risen to the occasion. He's going to We're hoping Darius Alexander is that guy. Now, Darius Alexander dealt with injuries back in minicamp, and he's kind of overcoming that, and he's just kind of getting his feet underneath him. I'll say this, man. He looks freaking big out there, dude. Like, he looks the part, Darius Alexander. That's who I want to earn this job. But Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Cam Scadaboo and even Devin Singletary, they were breaking off some nice runs yesterday. And it's hard to tell. It's like, oh, well, would Michael McFadden have made that tackle? I can't, it's hard to tell sometimes, but some of the holes are bigger than I want to see. And I'm not even evaluating this from a linebacker perspective. Okereke and McFadden, I'm comfortable with them being our starters. I'm evaluating it from how is our front holding up to allow Michael McFadden and Bobby Okereke to locate the football and make the play, or those safeties. And I can't sit here and say I'm confident that they're doing a good job. Even though there's not hitting at this moment, there's some guys getting moved around on the line of scrimmage, Roy Robertson, Harris, and some of these dudes. So it's like, are the Giants going to go out week 1? And I think they'll have a strong rotation, but it might just be Nacho again. And that's not the worst thing in the world. It's a very low upside type of player to select, but he can at least be, I would say, adequate against the run. Like, he's not going to get blown off the ball. I don't think he's the run defender he was back when he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers either. I think it was a step back last year with the Giants. But overall, I mean, that's probably like, I don't even know if he's going to make it through camp though either, because the Giants can save like 2.8 mil or something like I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm sorry, but they could save money by releasing him. But I just want to see Roy Robertson Harris or Jeremiah Ledbetter or Darius Alexander or any of these other players step up and seize the day. And that just has not happened yet. And even though it's not the most conducive because they're not tackling and bringing guys to the deck, but I don't want to see you get pushed back like you're on ice skates either.
Sure.
I'll say this though, and this isn't a good thing, but and I'm not trying to be negative here, but the Giants run defense on the third team and the second team, pretty damn good. They're
Okay.
shutting it down. Now, I attribute that much more to the lack of talent on the Giants' offensive line and their inability to generate push up front rather than the Giants' defense and having depth. But still, maybe one of those guys like Elijah Garcia can earn a back-end roster spot and work it. But like, you're not going to rely on him to be the starter. You need one of the guys I just mentioned, Roy Robertson Harris, Jeremiah Ledbetter, Darius Alexander, Raheem Nunez-Roches, and players like that to actually seize this opportunity.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of what you just said is just a byproduct of there's so much more defensive line depth than offensive line depth in the NFL. There's so many bad offensive linemen on rosters and back ends of training.
I think it's 100% that. Yeah. And if they and usually it's the back end running backs that receive the reps, so it's not even like, Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary's been getting like first team reps.
Looking good too.
Yeah. I think he's going to be a bigger factor than people realize.
He really is. And speaking of the running backs, then we'll move on to maybe some plays like Cam Scatterboo. Saw him yesterday at practice, take his helmet off, slam it on the ground out of frustration, pulled, didn't return to practice. And Dable basically all but said, and he gives no updates on injuries. So for him to even say this tells you it's bad. It's basically like, this isn't a day-to-day thing. This could be bad. This could be multiple weeks.
I have to imagine, because you got to realize he didn't practice for 2 days in a row at the end of July, and he returned to practice yesterday on August 1st, and he gets hurt right away. Right. So I think it was a setback. He re-aggravated, and I don't think Dable came out and said it. Duggan has speculated that it's the hamstring. And I don't know if we're going to see him in the preseason if that's the case, which sucks.
That's the thing.
Yeah, like I wanted to see him back, but that's going to open up opportunities for. I mean, we might see Motor during preseason, and then we'll see Turbo Dante Miller, who earns snaps with the second team, and he might have got snaps with the first team. I'm not 100% certain there, but we've seen him get snaps with the first team in previous years, so maybe they can seize an opportunity if it comes up as well.
Yeah, hopefully, because Dante Turbo Miller is a player I'm still intrigued by. Has good lateral bursts and agility. I just worried with Scatterboo if it is multiple weeks at this point with like a decently bad hamstring strain, if it is a hamstring, whatever it may be, if it's multiple weeks, you're missing the preseason time, which is super valuable to him. Forget like the fun of us getting to watch Scatterboo in preseason, which I was also looking forward to. Just the value of him playing. But also he's a guy who we always said, like, if we want him to make an impact week one, and I do, like, I think he adds an element to the Giants offense. But if we want that to happen, he's got to get all the reps he can get in training camp and preseason, because he's got to be able to understand the plays and the concepts and what they're doing and what his responsibilities are on those plays. So that's what concerns me. If he misses the rest of let's say he misses 2 weeks right now from now, Nick, or let's say it's 2.5 weeks. That's it then, right? Like the preseason's over at that point. Maybe he gets in the final game.
Look, I understand what you're saying. I'm not as worried about that.
Okay.
Like reps are always very important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to devalue the importance of reps, but I think this is a different situation than Tyrone Tracy from last year, who played running back for one season. Cam Scatterboo played running back at a high level for a Power 5 school for years, and it's a much different speed in the NFL. But I think he'll slowly work his way back into the lineup, and by midseason, if he earns his stripes, he'll be taking a larger portion of the carries than maybe some of the other guys. I don't know if that's going to happen, because I think Tracy's going to be the one, especially after this. But I don't think the reps are as important. I think it's like more important for guys like Jaxson Dart and Tyrone Tracy Jr. last year, who were new to the position. Still important, but I don't think this is going to, if he's at full health, I think the Giants would put him out there. Now, the issue is, and we don't get to see this too much in preseason when it comes to Scatterboo, or not preseason training camp, can he pass protect, man? That's the real thing that like I'm looking for, because he's such an exceptional pass catcher. But can the Giants trust him to be out there for 6-man protection? And sometimes, the running back's route gets nixed, and they're like, all right, you're in protection now. And if he freaking whiffs protection and Russell Wilson gets killed, that's going to be on him. Like that. Those are the things I wanted to really focus on in preseason. And that's what really sucks about him not getting out there.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that front. We'll have to see what happens there. I hope he has a role in season early, because I think, again, he adds something to the Giants offense. Let's take a look at some of these plays from Giants practice. 2 plays really stood out to me once we get to it. The Russ throw in the red zone to Malik Nabers, the anticipation on that, and then Tommy DeVito back shoulder from a couple days ago at practice. But let's start maybe with this Russell Wilson to Nabers touchdown on a go route, because I believe A, you were there for that one. That was yesterday's practice, and B, it was a 3rd down situation that Russ diagnosed the opportunity on the outside with Nabers and hooked up with them on.
We have this right here. It's okay. This is just, I think this was from today's practice though. This is Deontay Banks against Malik Nabers. And I just want to focus on the release, man. Look,
Yeah.
Deontay Banks, again, he gets cooked here, but it's by Malik Nabers. And this is just such an exceptional release. Split release, right? Feet come together. And then just look how much lateral separation he creates there. Maintains that red line. And then that's a good throw, too. I'm guessing that's from Russell Wilson. It's a good throw, and Malik Nabers just elevates and plucks it right out of the air. It's just an exceptional play by Malik Nabers to create that separation. And that's one thing about Malik that I want to bring up is, look, like Malik Nabers isn't the like biggest guy, right? But you can kind of see it here. The dude's calves are gigantic for like a wide receiver who's sub 200 pounds. Usually we talk a lot about calves for players who are, defensive line, running back even, but like I was looking at his calves at practice and I'm just like, dude, that guy's calves are freaking thick. That's one of the reasons why he generates all this freaking explosiveness.
Yeah, Nick spending a lot of time at practice looking at guys' calves.
Oh, nice. You know it. You know it, dude. Hey, man, it stands out because there are other receivers. I'm like, this guy's got chicken legs. How the hell is he generating any explosiveness? I'm like, that's an elite wide receiver right there with them calves.
I agree, though. I mean, it is how you generate explosiveness, especially lateral explosiveness. I pointed out yesterday on another route Nabers had from 2 days ago, or maybe the practice you were at, because I think this was from today's practice, a touchdown go route. His release has gotten so much better year 1 to year 2. And that's what we talk about a lot, release off the line of scrimmage with these receivers. It was like one of the 2 areas we said watching his LSU tape, we don't necessarily need to see improvement. We just haven't seen a lot of yet be anything like, like a huge release package. I just think right now with Nabers, he can win with the way, like he can win off the line of scrimmage in the way you said, relying on his athleticism and his quickness and his lateral agility. And it just makes it really difficult. This is the release I was talking about. Yeah, the touchdown here. Just makes it really difficult for a Debo or any of these guys to stay with him in phase.
Oh, 100%. I wonder if this was a check at the line of scrimmage because it looks like the safety comes down and the Debo just tries to force him out. Well, Debo assumes inside leverage there, so I'm imagining it wasn't necessarily that because he looks like he takes that step. It was that this inside foot. Let's see. That plant right there, and then that head and that shoulder, and Adebo kind of tries to attack, and there's not a lot of space to the outside. You can see the safety is not in position there either, but that's just a good throw and a well executed play by the Giants.
Yep, and there's been a bunch of that.
Yeah, I did see this I was on the far end though. Unfortunately, I wish it was to my side of the field.
That would be nice. There's been a lot of that so far in camp, just really good connection developing between Russ and Nabers. I want to go over a few spots down that anticipation throw from Russ to Nabers in the red zone. This is, to me, maybe the most telling and best moment from Giants training camp so far, for me at least, because this is an example of a play the Giants scored a touchdown on in the red zone that they never would have and certainly haven't in the last 5 or 6 years. Because
so for whatever reason, that clip got removed from Twitter.
Okay, so we won't be running that. But for those who want to check it out, it's on my page. And I think Madeline Burke.
It's removed.
Oh, the Giants just got rid of it. I'm probably don't really know why, because all this other video is out there. But there's a picture, a still shot of it that might not be under it. That might still be possible. Can you see if you can get that still shot picture under it, just to see if we still have that, if that wasn't removed?
I do. Brandon Tyler. Way to go, Brandon Tyler there tweeting this out.
So we don't have the video, but we have this. And this will show you. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
No, it's just an anticipatory pass that you can see that Malik Nabers, who is the receiver in the foreground, is not even – he didn't even plant his foot yet, Dan, to make the cut. And Russ is already releasing the football. And you could – oh, man, that's such an anticipatory pass from the New York Giants there. From Russell Wilson.
It broke my brain, Nick, to be honest. I watched this clip like 50 to 100 times, and I paused it, and I went back, and I paused it and went back, and I slowly went through it. So I just wanted to see where the release was, and thank you to Brandon for finding it for us. And then where the ball ended up and where Nabers caught it. And it was a little behind him. He stumbled out of his break. Doesn't matter. It was near him, and he made the catch, and he got his feet in, and broke my brain because we just haven't seen an anticipatory throw like this at all in the last 6 years. Maybe 1 or 2 here and there that was like slightly like this. It kind of looked like this, but it wasn't. And this is a different level of anticipation. And I think that rapport will continue to grow with Nabers and Russ. And I think we're going to see more and more of these like checks with them, right? Where like Nabers and Russ are on the same page and they know like, all right, we see this look, let's go to the back shoulder. We see this look, let's go to the quick out, and I'll get the ball out fast. And I'll trust you to get to that point. And That's the key. Can you get to the point where the quarterback trusts the receiver so much that he's willing to release it that fast? And that play right there, we didn't go over because it was removed, but that still shot, that's unguardable. There's no way for a defense to stop it. If a quarterback's going to throw with that level of anticipation, there's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, and then we have this double move that I'm running right now with Russell Wilson from July 31st practice where he beats Cordell Flott. And you can see the double move. You can see Russell Wilson set up. And this like showcases Russell Wilson's arm strength to a certain degree because the drop is so deep. Like, look how deep he is off that drop. Has to gain all that space. He steps up and hitches into it a little bit, but it's still leading Malik Nabers. And Malik Nabers needs a turn through contact. It looks like there might have been a little contact. Well, there was definitely contact from Cordell Flott's part, but then it did look like at the catch point, Malik might have pushed off just a little bit to really get this football. But this football sails. That's a good throw from Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and the Giants got a good look, and Russell Wilson saw it. This is a one-on-one isolated on the outside with Nabers after they put him in motion, which I think was a great play by the Giants here to create this. And this is the type of stuff you're looking for, right? Like if the Giants do get these opportunities with one-on-ones, can Russell Wilson locate it, and will he make the throw? And the answer has been yes, resoundingly for the most part throughout practices. He's thrown like I said, half his completions Nabers. He's looking for him and he's confirming these things pre to post snap and then letting it rip. And it's just great to see.
He's so quick out of his breaks too, man. Like he comes to almost a full stop once he does this double move and this stutter, and then you just see him accelerate. It's off the screen, unfortunately. Kudos. I don't know who cut this and clipped this. Kudos though to whoever did. You see how he decelerated, and then watch how he's already accelerating, and he's like 20 yards down the football field, securing this catch through contact.
It's impressive. The concentration too at the catch point, everything about it, catching it through contact. With the ground, I should say, he's made a few catches this camp that have just been the one you played earlier from today's practice, that one, and even that one that we couldn't post because it was removed from Twitter, that inside the red zone, just really good adjustments to the football and just concentration. He has every aspect of playing the wide receiver position that you could ask for. Honestly, he really does. I don't see a single weakness in his game.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I remember like we talked a little bit about it when the Giants drafted him, and it was release package we wanted to see. And then we wanted to see if he can consistently be a contested catch winner. And that wasn't because of anything that we didn't, that wasn't because of anything that we saw on his LSU tape, right? It was more so what we didn't see because LSU had Jaden Daniels and they had Brian Thomas and they were just absolute studs. And most of the time Malik Nabers was just running away from people and making catches uncontested.
Right, exactly. And he's proven a lot of that so far in practice. Let's take a look at a couple of these dart throws. The back shoulder one was probably my favorite dart throw by far of camp. And I think you're showing it right now. Like, this is a phenomenally executed throw by Dart. The trajectory he puts on the football, the ball gets up and down, the velocity, and then the ball placement to get this football to the back shoulder. This is unguardable.
Yeah, this is a great play. And little Jordan Humphrey, look, he's been the recipient of several Jaxson Dart touchdowns so far through camp. He's trying to earn one of those last wide receiver spots now that Bryce Ford-Wheaton is done with the Achilles tear, unfortunately. But little Jordan Humphrey, I'll say this, man, he's not the quickest guy in the world. So he's going to have to make a lot of those back shoulder catches.
Yeah, and a big catch, I think, yesterday or today's practice where he got up and he was really vocal after it. And similar idea, he kind of just elevated, high-pointed it, didn't create a lot of separation, but came away with the catch. So we'll see what happens with him in the back end of that roster and if he can earn that spot. It's going to be interesting in general, Nick, just thinking about the wide receiver room. Like, we have our lock 4, probably 5, right? So the 4 are Nabers, Wandell, and Slayton. Then there's Hyatt, maybe, but probably a lock. And then obviously Smith-Marset, who's the special team lock.
I'd say Hyatt's like a 95% lock, right?
Yeah.
And Amir Smith-Marset more than likely just because they love him as a special teamer. But you do have players like Gunnar Olszewski, who is back. Yeah. You have players like Dalen Cambry, who is now making plays in practice. We're about to see one. This is from yesterday's practice. That's a beautiful throw from Jaxson Dart, man. He finds the soft spot in the coverage. Like, it's a high-low concept. You could see how that cornerback reacts to Daniel Bellinger in the flat. Daniel Bellinger goes to the flat. You see the cornerback step down, and then he's like, oh, shit, behind me. And Dalen Cambry, that's a great catch. It's a great play from Dalen Cambry and Jaxson Dart in yesterday's practice. We talked about this play a little bit earlier, right? But when it comes to the wide receiver, like Dalen Cambry didn't even have like any production as a Raging Cajun. It's funny because he's actually producing a little bit in camp, but he is a core special teamer. I don't know exactly who's going to earn that more than likely final wide receiver spot behind the guys that you listed. Obviously, the 11 personnel package, Jalen Hyatt, probably Amir Smith-Marset. And then could it be little Jordan Humphrey? Could it be a Dalen Cambry? I'm not really certain. I think that's a battle that we have to evaluate over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I want to keep my eye on Bo Collins as well, who just had a phenomenal camp, and it seems like a talented player. There's a lot of options behind there, and I love watching this throw too here from Dart. This is exactly what I'm looking for in a quarterback, somebody who's willing to challenge the field outside the numbers, in between the second and third level like that, and have the ability to throw with that kind of trajectory and that not flat ball that goes up and down and drops right in. I mean, this ball drops into the outside shoulder of Dylan Cambry. That's perfect. If he's not by the sideline, he can turn that upfield, or even a Nabers type could turn that upfield and maybe turn that into a big play.
Yeah, I mean, look, he can vary his trajectory, and that's all I'm asking for at this point, like in his career. Now he just needs to master the playbook, be a little bit more comfortable back there, which it seems like he already has that. It's not like he's uncomfortable, but all of this comes with reps, and that's one of the conversations we had a little bit earlier with the Tommy DeVito situation. But I think, again, I hope Dart earns a decent amount of playing time up against the Bills, and then we have those joint practices in 10 days against the Jets. That should be fun too.
That's a big one, right? The joint practices will be really interesting. That's kind of an example of where I'm just like not looking forward to DeVito getting any of those reps personally. I don't see the value in it. I want those reps all going to Dart personally, or Russ, and honestly Jameis too. Guys who will actually play on the football field and can play on the football field. No offense to this guy, he's a good story. Blah blah blah. Great for him.
But you're his number one fan, I think, actually.
It's not that it doesn't make me not a fan. Like, like I guess it does technically, but like,
nah, I'm just giving you shit, dude.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it's the reps are very important, and he has no place on the team anymore since they drafted Dart. But here we go. This is an out route to Jalen Hyatt. I thought he did I put this one on Twitter too. I thought he did a good job here running this route, and the throw from Russ is just really well placed on this.
I love how this is against Paulson Adebo. It's against our number one cornerback, and he opens to the inside, bends, and then gets right back outward. That's a very good, well-timed, well-placed ball by Russell Wilson. And you see, who's that? Who's that blocking Abdul Carter? Is that Evan? Is that Mr. Evan Neal?
Might be.
It was 73. Look at him. Gets his hands on, and Carter just kind of gets stopped and run into a bunch of other defensive linemen. For those listening on the podcast, it's not like a complete and utter shutdown. And then Illuminor deals with KT. It looks like Thibodeau. That might have been a sack, actually. If you really look at this, I don't think so. I think Russ gets rid of the ball, but KT does a really good job separating from Jermaine Illuminor at the top of the right there, knocks that outside arm down, and you can see KT's inside foot is already past where Jermaine Illuminor's positioning is. So Jermaine Illuminor is in a poorly framed position. This is a low-key, really good rep by Kayvon, because Kayvon could bend in there and get his arm up and whack. That probably would be a sack or an incomplete pass. Yeah, that's what this is like. What it is about evaluating training camp practice when you can't hit the quarterback, right? Like it's kind of really hard. Like it's a great catch by Jalen Hyatt. Looks like the defense sucks, and it's like, not really. No.
I completely agree with you. This has been a crux for us as Giants evaluators and fans for a while now, because training camp doesn't, and I said this last year a bunch, like training camp doesn't really do a great job of translating. It still has its crazy amount of importance because you need the timing, you need these players to go through the motions so they don't just hit the regular season just like cold. But it's just hard to take away from the production or the stats or like what ends up happening on the play.
I just love watching James Hudson, man. This dude celebrates after like every rep that he like kind of wins. And he does a solid job against Burns on that one. But after almost every single play, Dan, like the one-on-ones, he's doing some shit extra, dude. Like if I'm a defensive player, I'm like, yo, screw this guy, man. Like he had a one-on-one against Kayvon Thibodeau where it was like, he probably won the rep, but it wasn't like KT got shut down. And then after the rep, you see James Hudson like just like do that whole thing where like the whistle's blown and like he's still moving towards KT. And then he continues to move towards him. And then he bumps him with his chest. You just see like Thibodeau be like what the fuck?
Dude, yeah.
What are you doing, man?
Like I don't care about this. Like, that is funny.
Yeah,
it's a good little observation from camp there. I like that. Let's see, what else do we got here? I want to talk a little bit about some of the comments that the Giants receivers have made, because it's been interesting to watch the dynamic develop. You see Wan'Dale Robinson get more involved on vertical routes so far in this offense. Hyatt's been more involved with Russell Wilson, but ultimately the passing game with the first team has been pretty concentrated on Nabers and then checkdowns to Tyrone Tracy. I wonder, as the season progresses, Nick, and Russ is the starter, if we're going to see much involvement at all from Slayton or Hyatt. Like people have suggested that Slayton may have a career year from a statistical standpoint. I might go the other route there. I don't know how many targets he's going to get, and I feel the same way about Hyatt and Wan'Dale. I think this might be a very concentrated offense, but here you're watching an insane circus catch from Wan'Dale Robinson, who gets vertical. Russ, like you mentioned earlier, a little bit of an underthrow here.
Yeah, that's definitely an underthrow. And these are the type of plays that I'm talking about, but Wan'Dale Robinson still comes up with it. It seemed like Wan'Dale created pretty good separation against Drew Phillips all throughout today's practice, but Phillips is quick with his recovery. Like the one underthrow that's going around Twitter right now, not the one that you're watching right now, where Wan'Dale, I posted it on Twitter, Wan'Dale hit Drew with the little head fake and then went north. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the throw was underthrown. If it wasn't, I still think Drew Phillips might have been able to get back into phase because he has like exceptional acceleration and closing burst.
Yeah, and he made a good play on the football. I like how he played.
This should be an easy touchdown, though. But
this
still, like that. But still, man, sorry to cut you off, but that's good recovery from Drew Phillips. Like he's getting back. Like, look, he's burnt right now, and you can see he still like gets back close enough. Now, if it was led correctly, I still think that would have been a touchdown. The last one probably as well. But hey, quarterbacks don't always throw perfect times.
Yeah, they don't. And that one-on-one rep you're talking about, I may have that video on there, but if not, no worries. It doesn't matter either way. But point being, like, I think it's I like the way that Drew Phillips plays the ball in the air. I know he didn't have a lot of interceptions or none. I think it was a Kentucky. I had one earlier this training camp on a 2-minute drill, but I just think he understood. Like we talk a lot about Banks not being great at playing the ball in the air, getting his head turned around. Drew Phillips, I think, understands the nuances of playing the cornerback position when it comes to playing the football at the point of the catch. Like this is a great example of it. I think you found it here with this one-on-one rep against Wan'Dale. Wan'Dale gets the step on him.
Yeah,
Drew Phillips recovers, and he just plays. He's playing the receiver's hands at that point.
Yeah, this is just one-on-one drill, so it's not team drills like the last one. And yeah, he plays the hands. He gets it in there. He doesn't even really turn around and locate the football because he's burnt so bad. Because this is such a good route by Wan'Dale Robinson and a little bit of overzealous, I would say, by Drew Phillips. Because look, you have that stutter outside release, and it's that head fake right there that put into the mind of Drew Phillips that, oh, Wan'Dale Robinson is going to break outward because he fakes his head and he's going to break outward. So you can see the next step from Drew Phillips is flat towards the sideline. Takes that flat step, and then he's like, oh, shit, it's a vertical route. I'm screwed. And that's still exceptional closing burst and hustle and recovery, but still it's inexcusable. It still should be a touchdown because Wan'Dale does such a good job creating that vertical separation. But to your point, we've talked about this for weeks now, Dan. Wan'Dale Robinson creates vertical separation.
Yes.
Like he can do this. I know we think about him as a guy who just operates around the line of scrimmage, but he's a subtle route runner and he's more explosive than I think he's given credit for.
Agreed. And he told Paul Schwartz of the New York Post, he said, he's certain he's making a declaration, Wan'Dale Robinson. He's certain his yards per catch average will rise significantly, he said, with Russell Wilson throwing him the ball. He tells the Post, it's been nice to have a quarterback who's always trying to go down the field and trying to take the top off. So just a really interesting quote, I thought, from Wan'Dale Robinson. His expectations were really high for himself this year, and he, credits that to the change at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's that is the catalyst to an offense.
Yep. Jalen Hyatt said too, he was asked about Russell Wilson. He said he's a true pro, a true leader. He always calls me and texts me to see if there's something he did or didn't like. He's very good at communicating. So you see it in the room. Everybody's confidence is higher playing with Russ. A lot of good puff piece type, quotes around Russell Wilson right now with the Giants.
Good vibes, Dan. Now,
they say.
What does that mean, though? What does that mean?
Right.
I mean, hey, like we've said it, and we're not going to give our predictions right now or anything, but the Giants, I think the expectation of the New York Giants from all the 31 other teams, I think the Giants will exceed that expectation. That expectation is very low, though. So what exactly does that mean? I do think there are a lot of national people starting to come around a little bit to the Giants and giving the Giants a little bit more kudos that they haven't quite earned yet, if we're going to be frank, if we're going to be real. But within the building, if you listen to Brian Burns, if you listen to Dexter Lawrence, if you listen to a lot of the Giants players, they get in front of microphones, they're like, we haven't done shit yet. So at least they have that mentality and they're not eating or smelling their own farts. They're not smelling their own farts right now. They are, I feel like they have their eye on the prize, eye on the mission. And dude, there's not great vibes around Washington camp right now. The Giants get Washington week 1 at FedEx. Let's wait and see. I'm excited to watch that.
It could break incredibly well for the Giants if Terry McLaurin. It's not going to happen though. But if McLaurin doesn't play week 1, it's probably these things always end up with the players signing.
But even you're right. But even then, this is still a massive distraction. That's like a dark cloud that's hanging over their camp. And they have all of the expectations. They were in the NFC Championship game.
True.
The Giants are the Giants. That's their perception. You have guys like Tom Coughlin showing up to camp being like, oh, being an underdog. He's freaking going out doing all that kind of shit. Kind of sound a little bit like John Mayer there, but That underdog mentality is something I feel like the Giants can embody and then ride. And it's something that they've done over the last like 20 years. They've thrived with that mentality.
Yeah, agreed.
Not
I
that
love.
that necessarily will carry over, but still, it's something.
No, I think it is something. I think it's general sports psychology. When you're the underdog, you have a much better chance to win than when you're the favorite. That's just how I feel. I feel that way as well in competitions I've been in. And I love that Coughlin was at camp and he was like, yeah, the thing I always used to yell at and get the most mad at is when players were on the ground rolling. He's like, through my experience, and it's such an interesting answer as to why. He's like, through my experience as a coach, that's where most of the injuries happen, when players are on the ground and you get rolled up on. And so it's just like, get up. And I love that. He's like, he's instilling that in Dable. And who knows if Dable was using that before that, but or was focusing on that before that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this team actually plays out with the vibes this high as we get toward the regular season. But we still got a long way to go in training camp. We've got preseason coming up. We got the joint practice with the Jets. I'm really excited about. Anything else from these recent practices that you wanted to touch on that I might have missed?
No, I think this is good. Just stay healthy, guys. I mean, we
Yeah.
have guys who are kind of going down with this little
Yeah.
injury, that little injury. Like Hyatt's back at practice is good, but he put on like 15 pounds of muscle or whatever it was. And, he had like 2 soft tissue injuries since OTAs. So you want to watch out for that. Fedone got hurt. Nothing serious, I don't think, but he's not there. I'm just knocking on wood. I just want them to stay healthy and get to these preseason games.
Yeah, we need it. All right. Thanks to everybody listening in. Please hit the like button. Please rate. Please subscribe. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.